Howdy, folks. It's Rico, and we're back for another episode of the Rico and Declan podcast. Rico and Declan College Football Show with your host, Rico. All right, so today we are going to, or tonight, I'm recording this at 12:19 a.m., going into Friday, April 17th, 2026. I'm recording this late because I got home from my hockey game a little bit ago and I felt like doing another podcast. So this podcast will be about the transfer portal QBs. I'm going to go and give my grades for the portal QBs, and it's an A to F scale. I don't think I'm going to give anybody an F, but some QBs are deserving of a C or lower. But yeah, this is an interesting, take on the transfer portal. We're going to also analyze the wide receivers on the next podcast, and then after that, we'll look at the defensive players. We'll also look at running backs as well, but we'll, first look at the QBs to start off. Speaking of college football, I'm going to look at what happened in the news. So just bear with me. I'm a little bit behind with my updates. See if anything happened. NCAA recommends earlier start to football season. Interesting. What are they saying? Beginning of 2027, this is from ESPN. College football could have an earlier official start to the season. The Oversight Committee said on Thursday they recommended a standard start before Labor Day weekend. All right, so my take on that, I actually like that because it seems like the season drags on and then it ends in January when it should end in December. They should do the playoff games around Christmas time or like right before Christmas time, and then you have the major playoff games during Christmas time or like right after, right before New Year's Day, and then New Year's Day you could do the national championship. I don't know, that's a bit of an idea that could be better. And they said that it would end the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and the regular season would begin on a Thursday instead of a Saturday. It's not a bad idea. I don't know if the players are going to like that. Clark Lay, that's the Vanderbilt coach, he said that the calendar has been a health and safety issue that needed to be addressed. To go through a season without 2 bye weeks is challenging to a roster. I agree with him. These players should get more rest time, honestly. Under the proposal, the NCAA would also eliminate expectations for teams to play before the official start of the season. For the proposal to be official, Division I cabinet still has to adopt legislation, and that group is scheduled to discuss the recommendation in June. I think that's a good idea. I think that's a start. You should start the season earlier. It's just going to make things go a lot easier and go from there. All right, so Judge grants Oklahoma linebacker Henneke an extra year. I mean, how did he play? He's a junior. I guess he was a senior, but they classify him as a junior. He had 3 sacks and a forced fumble on Henneke. I saw him play a little bit. I think he was impressive, but he should be in the draft, or I don't know, maybe he knew he was not going to get drafted. I don't know what to think about that. Manny Diaz signed a contract extension. I like that for Duke. Manny Diaz is a winner. Got them an ACC title, which meant nothing because they didn't make a playoff spot, but still they stole a playoff spot from Virginia. Virginia was looking like they were primed to get into the playoff, and then after they lost to Duke in the ACC championship game, they were out of that discussion. So I like that move by Duke. Manny Diaz is a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach, but he's good for Duke. Like Duke is a basketball school. They're not a football school. They never were. Wide receiver Knox found negligent in crash, has to pay $2.8 million. Whoa. Fedor Knox. I don't even know about this guy. Dude, he didn't even do anything. He played at SMU. So his stats, 4 receptions for 3 yards. This guy is a bum. And he last played in 2022. So did he get kicked off the team? Probably. He looks like an idiot. Oh, I see. So he was involved in that crash with Rashee Rice from the Chiefs. Yeah, Rashee Rice played at SMU. That's interesting. That's crazy. He has to pay that much money. I wonder if Rashee Rice is going to go and bail him out with that and give him the money for that. That just scumbag behavior right there. Iowa disappointed after NCAA vacates 4 wins. So the whole backstory with that was that they were recruiting, what was his name? Cade McNamara. And Cade McNamara, he was terrible. McNamara was so bad for them. And he wasn't even good at Michigan. So, like, the fact that they did illegal recruiting to get him to transfer over to Iowa is mind-boggling. It's just, give me a break. Iowa, come on. That was stupid to begin with. Michigan lands Illinois QB decommit Lapata. I mean, I'm not going to analyze these recruiting classes. Here's my take with recruits. They played well in high school, okay? But college football is a whole different ball game. And you can see a 4 or 5-star recruit not perform well under the big lights. And we've seen it time and time again. So I'm not into looking at recruits or analyzing recruits. If you're looking for that from another podcast, go and watch somebody else, because I'm not doing that. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about recruits. That's not my expertise. I'm just looking at the current rosters. And then if a freshman performs, then so be it. Then I'll analyze what the freshman's doing. But most of the time, not all the time, but a lot of times, these freshmen, they'll redshirt for their freshman season and then they'll play their sophomore year. So I'm not analyzing any type of recruits or recruiting unless if it affects the schedule, in case if they make a difference. But let's go into our order of business. Let's analyze the QB transfers for the 2026 college football season. I'm analyzing 11 QBs. I'm not analyzing every QB transfer. I picked out 11. Now, I used the metrics from 24/7 Sports. I'm going off of what they believe are the best QBs and what their ratings were. I agree with some of their ratings. I don't agree with all. I'm going to give a letter grade for these transfers. So let's go right into it. First off, we're going to start off with Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt, I thought, had a great season 2 seasons ago. And then last season it was okay, but he was also hurt. And then there was this whole drama about him transferring, which turned out to be true. He's now going to be the LSU QB with Lane Kiffin as the new head coach. Sam Leavitt, when I look at his stats, and I'm basing this off of last season, he had 1,628 yards passing. He had 10 touchdowns and 3 picks. So that's a small sample size. It's not really that much. But the season before, if I go into the numbers, so again, I'm not the best at being organized here, but just bear with me. In 2024, he had 24 touchdowns passing and 6 interceptions. He also ran for 443 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he can be a dual threat QB when he wants to. But he also, I think his numbers are a little bit inflated because of Jordan Tyson. And Jordan Tyson is a tremendous receiver, if I got that right. Yeah, I'm right, Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson was a 1,000-yard receiver, and he's going to be a perennial first-round draft pick. I think he's projected to go late first round, mid first round. He's so talented. Tall receiver, makes all these difficult catches. So I think Levitt benefited from having a great receiver in Tyson. He also had a great running back in Scatterboo. So I think that last season he didn't have the support system that he had the season before. And with LSU, I don't see him competing to that level of the SEC. And I know that he can be talented, but with Lane Kiffin in this new system, I don't think it's going to work out. I don't. And he has 2 years left of eligibility. He's going into his junior year. I think he'll play better in his senior year than his junior year. I don't think he's a first-round draft pick. His numbers don't jump out to me. And he's got good size. He's 6'2", 205, but still, I think his numbers were inflated with Arizona State. And Kenny Dillingham knew how to work with him. He was decent at Michigan State. And for whatever reason, that didn't work out. And, I mean, Michigan State, they're in a lull. But I think that he will be better off with another head coach than Lane Kiffin. I don't see that working. So I'm going to give this QB rating a C+. I just don't think Levitt's that good. And I've seen him play a couple times on TV. He doesn't stand out to me. But again, who am I to judge? I'm just a podcaster, I guess. Next up, we're going to go with Brendan Sorsby. Sorsby had a great season last year, but there were some games that I watched that made me head scratch, and he's going to be the new QB for hang on, folks. I should know this. I had it on the tip of my tongue just now. He will be the new QB at Texas Tech. He is better than the QB they had before, which was, let me look this up, Baron Morton. Baron Morton cost them that playoff game against Oregon. Oregon gave Texas Tech so many chances to come back, but Morton was horrible in that game. Whereas Sorsby has more talent. He's a bigger QB. I didn't realize how big he was. He's 6'3", and 235. So he's a big dude. And he not only can pass, he could also rush. He ran for 580 yards and 9 touchdowns. And then with his passing numbers, I'm looking at them, 27 touchdowns to 5 picks. He only threw for 2,800 yards. So that is, it's okay. It's not great. But with Texas Tech, he'll be in a better support system. They have more athletes than Cincinnati did. But when he played against good defenses, I'm looking at his numbers, his game log. So when he played against Nebraska to open the season, and yes, it was the first game of the season, you're going to have some struggles. You're going to have some adversity. He threw for just 69 yards, 13 for 25. That is pathetic. And Nebraska, their defense, it was subpar at best. Like, it didn't perform well against Big Ten teams. But he threw for no touchdowns. He had 1 interception. He got exposed in that game. So I look at that as a bit of an issue. He's going into a better team, obviously. But is that going to matter if he doesn't have the receivers to help him out? And then after that, his season long in a game was 388 yards against Kansas. That's not saying much. Kansas sucked. They were terrible. And then these are the games that pop out to me, and it tells me that he's not a competitor because he was not good in these games. And I saw him play in these games. So, for instance, when he played against BYU, I actually watched that game in St. Augustine. So I was with my wife and my son, and we met up with her parents. They got an Airbnb. It was really nice. And I remember that night I was watching that game, and I was so excited for it. I was cheering for Cincinnati because my wife's family is from Ohio, so I'll root for teams that are, in state for, Ohio, and I really wanted them to beat BYU, and he played good in that game. I'm looking at the numbers. He threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. But what is glaring to me, he was 25 for 38. So his completion rate was decent, but not great. And then he couldn't make the plays when he needed them the most. So he couldn't get important first downs. And then again, throwing a pick late in the game that cost Cincinnati a win against a good BYU team. I wouldn't say they're great. And then this game is very glaring to me. He lost against Arizona. He threw for 15 for 28. This was the week before BYU. Only for 150 yards and 2 picks to 1 touchdown. So, and also, too, if you look at his numbers, his season long for passing in terms of a long pass, a deep pass, was 88 yards, which is really good. But there are a couple games where his longs were 37 yards. In fact, when he played against Arizona and then BYU back-to-back weeks, the long was 37 yards. So that's telling me that he doesn't have the best arm. I've seen him pass. It's wobbly at times. But, again, he's going to a better team. Do I think he's better than Levitt? Yes, but not by much. So I'm going to say that this QB rating is a B-. And here's the thing with 24/7 Sports. They rate Levitt 1 and Sorsby 2, and they have him as 5 stars. I don't agree with that at all. I think they're overvaluing them and overrating them. Whereas the next guy, this guy I think is the best QB in the transfer portal, and he's going to a spot that his coach is going to. And I'm talking about Drew Mestemaker. Drew Mestemaker had the most passing yards in college football. He threw for over 4,000 yards. And he also, when you look at his rushing numbers, he's a very underrated runner. He ran for 89 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he had a long of 31 yards. So he can run when he wants to. I wouldn't say he's a dual threat QB. Obviously, he's not. He's a pass-first guy. But the thing with Mestemaker is he's consistent. Yes, he played in the American Conference for Tulane. For North Texas. I almost said Tulane. He played against Tulane in the American Conference Championship and lost. But in that game, he didn't do well. And I watched that game. So he struggled. The 2 losses he had on the season were against USF. And we're going to talk about Byron Brown. He's in this list of QB transfers I'm going to go over. I actually watched that game. But the guy can pass. And it's going to take him some time. I think Oklahoma State is going to have to go through a little bit of a struggle next season. They might shock people. They might go 7-5. But I think that their window is 6-6, maybe 5-7. I don't think they're going to compete for a Big 12 spot in the playoff, obviously, and they're not a contender at all. But Mestemaker, he has a better arm, and he has more attributes that will make him successful in the next level in the NFL. I think he's going to be an NFL QB. Whereas Sorsby and Levitt, yeah, they might get drafted, but they're not going to impress anybody. And the fact that he threw for all those yards, and on top of it, he had 34 touchdowns to 9 picks. yes, he had 2 bad games against USF and Tulane, but other than that, his numbers are rock solid. Um, he has a lot of weapons too. He has that running back coming with him as well, over with Morris. So Eric Morris has, I think, the best QB in the transfer portal, and it's a guy he's familiar with, and they're just going to get better. And there was one game, I'm looking at his numbers, against Charlotte, and I know Charlotte sucks. They're not good. He threw for 608 yards. That is insane. So he can really sling it. I'm going to say that this QB rating, or my grade for him, is a B+. I think he's better than Levitt. I think he's better than Sorsby. He has more upside than those two. And he's got more years of eligibility. Levitt, he has 2 more years. Sorsby, I think, is a senior. Let me double check. No, he's a June. Technically, he's a senior. So that's going to be interesting. But Mesnemaker, I'll give him a B+. And I think Oklahoma State, give them a couple years, they'll have a better record than LSU. That's my hot take. I honestly think that. I think Lane Kiffin is going to get involved in some coach drama. He's going to get involved in some scandal. He's going to do something stupid, because he is a stupid idiot. And Eric Morris, he just coaches. And the guy is an offensive wizard. Now, I don't think it's going to happen in year 1, but give him year 2, and possibly a year 3 with Mesnemaker. If he stays, he's going to be lights out for them. So, yeah, I honestly think that. Mesnemaker, I like him more than Sorsby and Levitt. And I've seen Mesnemaker play, and I saw him against USF and against Tulane. And he didn't play particularly well in those games, but he can compete. And he tried to will his team, even though their defense was terrible. North Texas' defense was atrocious. All right, next up on their list on 24/7 is DJ Lagway. I think DJ Lagway is so overrated. I mean, the guy threw for 14 picks. He had only 16 touchdowns. Yes, Florida was not good last year. They were a train wreck. Billy Napier, great recruiter. He cannot coach to save his life. He cannot develop QBs. But still, I'm not going to make excuses for DJ Lagway. I just don't think he's good. And he's going over to Baylor. Baylor is a good QB development school. I mean, they developed RG3 and Bryce Petty, but I don't know, man. I don't think DJ Lagway is that good. And I'm going to talk about games that stand out to me that are glaring red flags. So against LSU, he threw for 287 yards. He had 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. 5 interceptions. The man cannot pass. And his field vision is terrible. It's absolutely insane. And then I don't know if people said when he first came out as a recruit that he was a dual threat QB, but he only rushed for 136 yards and 1 touchdown. I don't think he's much of a runner. He's more of a passer. Surprisingly, he didn't throw a pick against Miami. That's shocking. I could have sworn he did. And then he had a game against Mississippi State. He won that game. He threw for 2 picks, 20 for 34. That's another thing, too. This guy's completion rate, I'm looking at it, it was at 63%. That's okay. That's not going to cut it. And he's going to a weaker conference. The Big 12 is the little brother to the ACC. It's not even close to talent level and the discrepancy between the two conferences. But still, I just don't see it. I think DJ Lagway is really, really, really overrated. So, yeah, I'm going to give this QB grade for the transfer portal. DJ Lagway, you get a D. He's not good. And I've been saying it since he came into the college football world. Next up, we got Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola, I think, is overrated too. Now, he actually didn't have terrible numbers. He had 18 touchdowns to 6 picks. And he threw for right on the dot 2,000 yards. Now, he did get hurt during that USC game. His story is interesting because he's going over to Oregon. Oregon already has Dante Moore. I think that's how you say it, Dante Moore? Yeah, it's Dante Moore. So they already have Dante Moore, and Dante Moore is going into his junior season, or is he? I think he's a senior, but he's going into one of his last years of eligibility, and most likely he's going to declare for the draft after this season. So Raiola is a QB in waiting. He's not going to start this year unless if Dante Moore gets hurt, because that could happen. But let's say, for instance, it doesn't, and everything works out for Oregon. The thing is with Raiola, he's me. He's way too flashy. He tries to be Patrick Mahomes. I think that's creepy. I think it's weird. It's kind of like a stalker. But you do you, buddy. I don't think he's that good. And I know he only threw for 6 picks to 18 touchdowns. His rushing numbers were actually not good at all, and he got sacked a lot. So in his defense, his offensive line was horrible. And in those first 2 years at Nebraska, so I'm looking at his stats, he was sacked, and this is just in 2025. So in his second year there, he was sacked 27 times. That's a lot. And then 2024, Raiola got sacked He got sacked 27 times. Wow. So both in 2024 and 2025, he was sacked 27 times, exactly the same amount of sacks back-to-back seasons. That's a lot of sacks. That's 54 sacks. That's an offensive line issue. So I think he's talented, but he's a little too flashy for my liking. I like when QBs are quiet and just go about their business and just throw darts like Mestamaker. But in some games, he showed out, like against Michigan. And Michigan, their defense was up and down. I thought it could be a little bit better. He did throw for 308 yards. He had only 9 incompletions. He was 11, my mistake. He was 30 for 41, which is not bad. 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Now, his long, in terms of a passing attempt, was 64 yards, which is decent. And then 2024, his long was 59, and he did it twice. So he doesn't really throw a huge deep ball, which concerns me. But I think taking a year off and learning the ropes under Dante Moore is going to help Dylan Raiola. So he can only go up. So I'm going to say that this QB grade for the transfer portal, Raiola going over to Oregon, I'm going to go and give it a B-. B-. All right. Let's go on to the next QB, and we got our friend Darian Mensah. Mensah, I think, is the most talented QB besides Mestamaker in the transfer portal, and let me tell you why. He's not afraid to throw the ball. Some of these QBs, they get timid, they get scared. Mensah's not like that, and he's also a dual threat QB. He ran for, he rushed for. Actually, no, check that. He got sacked a lot. Oh, get out of here. So him and Dylan Raiola were each sacked 27 times. Okay, so I made a mistake. I made a mistake with Mensah. He's not dual threat. He's a pass-first guy. But I will say this about Mensah. He's not afraid to throw the ball. he really balled out against Virginia in the ACC championship game. I picked Duke to win that game too. I had a feeling that Virginia was not for real and that they were going to choke, and I was right. So I do take credit for that. But going over to Mensa, he's going to Miami. Miami's going to have a better offensive line. Their defense is going to help the offense. He's going to get so much more support. Also, too, they're going to have a better running game than he had in Duke. So that also is going to complement his offensive paralysis. So he's amazing. He's absolutely talented. And I'm going to say that this guy is the second best QB in the transfer portal. For example, he beat Clemson at Clemson. Now, Clemson, I know, is regressing. It's because Dabo doesn't use the transfer portal for whatever reason. Hang on one second. I'm going to have a sip of lemonade. It's keeping me up because it's 12:50 Eastern time here in Florida. And this episode is going to be available tomorrow, so I'm recording from the past. But anyways, going back to Mensa. Mensa, his long for yards in a game was 389, and that was his first win and first game of the season against Elon. But against Clemson, he threw for 361 yards. He didn't throw any picks. It was 4 touchdowns. His QB rating was 172. So he is very, very talented. He lost some games he should have won, like UConn. He lost against Virginia the first time they played against each other, 34-17. And then that game, he only threw for 213 yards and 1 touchdown. So that's suspect. It doesn't matter, though, because in the next game, in the ACC championship game against them, he threw for 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He also won the Sun Bowl against Arizona State, but that game didn't matter. I'm not looking at bowl games for stats because that basically means it was no one cares. It's not like a playoff game, but still, he's very talented. He's going to get more support over in Miami, and I think he's going to take off there. And I think he's going to be a perennial first-round draft pick. I think he's better than Sorsby. I think he's better than Levitt. He was really good in Tulane. And I think he made the right choice by going over to a better conference where he could get more attention. He's going to get more money. And obviously he got more money from Miami than Duke. And that was interesting, too, because Duke was threatening to sue him. But then they worked it out in the sense that Mensa was able to talk to Miami. He was able to transfer there. And don't get me wrong, I hate the Hurricanes. I'm a Florida State fan right over here. Went to Florida State, like I said before in episode 1, but I will say this. Miami is on the upside. Miami has done a great job with the transfer portal. They are doing a better job of recruiting. They are Florida's team for now. And I think that Mario Cristobal is really going to get along with Mensa. It's a perfect fit for him. So I'm going to give this rating or grade A minus. I think he's going to have a better season than Mestemaker, but in overall grand scope of things, I think Mestemaker will have a better career. All right, let's go on to the next guy, Byron Brown. Byron Brown is going over to Auburn. He's going to go and transfer with Alex Golish. So Golish is bringing over his QB. Byron Brown is super talented. Now, I got my names mixed up because I was saying Darian Mensa was the dual threat QB when it's actually Byron Brown. Byron Brown threw for over 3,000 yards. He had over 1,000 yards rushing. He is a freak, folks. And the unfortunate thing with his situation, he's going into his last year of eligibility. He's I think a redshirt senior, but I think that Auburn could shock some people. I think they can win 7 games. I don't think they'll win 8. I don't think they'll win 8. I got to look at their schedule. Maybe they can. Maybe they will. But the thing is with Brown, he plays with a lot of tenacity. And the game that really showed me how talented he was against North Texas. So that North Texas game, it was a Friday night game. And I don't really often watch the American Conference. I could care less for it. But when I heard about Mestemaker and what he was doing there for the first couple weeks, and I already knew about USF's deal. They beat Florida at the Swamp. They beat Boise State at home. And I was just like, you know what, we'll watch this game. And he went off in that game. He had 245 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. And then he also ran he ran for 82 yards. And then the one game he should have won, and I think if they did win, they would have got an American Conference championship berth, was against Memphis. He also played close against Navy. I'm looking at that. They only lost by 3 in each of those games. But I'm looking at these numbers, man. He can go off. He had a 66.3 completion rate for the season, 28 touchdowns to 7 picks. He is very, very consistent. And he's a big dude, too. He's not someone easy to bring down. He stands at 6'3", 231 pounds. He is perfectly built for the SEC. He will not be intimidated by these SEC opponents. I mean, heck, the guy won at Florida. That's telling you a lot about him. And although in that game he threw for 1 touchdown, he was 23 for 36, so he had 13 incompletions. So what? He won in the Swamp. That's impressive. So I think that this guy, for a QB rating or QB grade, I'm going to say that it's an A-. The only issue is his eligibility, because he's going to be done after the season regardless, because he's a redshirt senior. So that's the only thing that's sad, because if he was a sophomore or freshman, I would say that Auburn has a good shot of winning 8 to 9 games the following season. I think they can win 7. I don't know about 8. All right, Rocco Becht. I am the biggest Rocco Becht hater / critic, and let me tell you why. I think he's a fraud. I don't think he's that good. He had a better 2024 season than he did 2025. I mean, everyone on Iowa State did anyways. So let me look at his numbers from 2024. He got exposed by Arizona State. So in 2024, he threw for 3,505 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 9 picks. He also had 318 yards rushing with 8 touchdowns. So he's kind of a semi-dual threat QB. He's not afraid to run it when he can. But then this season, he had only 116 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. But then the passing numbers, he dropped off. He really played bad. He had 16 touchdowns to 9 picks and only 2,584 yards passing. I don't know what happened with him. He got sacked a lot. I'm looking at the stats. He got sacked 21 times. That's not pretty. And you know what, too? I was watching Iowa State's games a couple times. Saw them against BYU. He got sacked 4 times in that game. He got sacked 4 times in that awful Week 0 game in Dublin against Kansas State. That was a terrible game. And then when he played against Iowa, who had a good season and they had a good defense, he only threw for 134 yards, 18 for 27, and 1 touchdown. That's not great. And then in the games that he played bad in, BYU, which was a home game, if they won that game, I think they could have knocked BYU out of a, Big 12 playoff spot. He only threw, he threw for 311 yards, but he had 3 picks, 1 touchdown and 3 picks. That's not going to cut it. And 16 touchdowns, man, that's not great. And I think he's just going to regress. He's going into a better conference. Like, the Big 12 is so inferior to the Big 10. It's not even close. So I don't see that working out. And I know he left Iowa State for Penn State because of Matt Campbell, but it's just I just don't see it working out there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he has 1 year left of eligibility. So this is his last season. Or am I wrong? Yeah. He was a junior last season. He's going to senior year. No. I think this is a terrible fit. It's just not going to work out. I'm going to say that this QB rating / grade, he's getting a D. I don't think he's good. I've said he's overrated. They listed him at 6'1". He's definitely shorter than that. That's like if I was saying I was 6 feet. I'm 5'10", but I don't say to people, oh, I'm 6 feet. He's saying he's 6'1". He looks like he's 6 feet even, maybe 5'11 and a half. He's too small. And do you think that Iowa State is going to do better in the Big Ten? I'm talking about all the transfers that they got. Like, basically, Matt Campbell took his whole team, most of his team, over to Penn State with him. And Penn State it's a whole different ball game, and it's a whole different conference. And Iowa State itself didn't have a good season. So I just don't see it working out. I think that he's overrated. I'll say that it's a D. All right, we got a couple more. Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover, I think, is the most underrated transfer guy. He's going over to Indiana. And I'll give you guys a hot take. Hoover has a better arm than Mendoza. He does. I've watched a couple games of TCU, and I was really impressed with the way Josh Hoover can throw the football. He's very good with deep throws. But he does turn over the ball a lot. That's the one thing that needs to be fixed. I think Kurt Cignetti can do that. I mean, he made Mendoza look incredible in his system. So why can't that be the same for Hoover? But I don't know if he's going to have the same weapons that Mendoza did. I think Charlie Parker's coming back. Pretty sure that's one of the guys that he can use. But, or is it Charlie Becker? I think it's Charlie Becker. Yep, I was right. Charlie Becker. I got the names mixed up. Yeah, but Becker's coming back, and he's a good target to throw to. But I don't know. I mean, he had 13 picks. He fumbled the ball a lot. And TCU coach Sonny, what's his name? Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes said that he was too turnover prone. He said that he kept turning over the ball. So 29 picks to 13, 29 touchdowns to 13 picks. I'm getting my names mixed up here. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you're doing a podcast at 1 a.m. in the morning. But anyways, 29 touchdowns to 13 picks. That's decent. It's good. He did throw for 3,472 yards, and he had a long of 85 yards. So he can dig it. He could really throw it long. He can't really run. He only had 4 yards rushing. He got sacked 18 times, but he has to protect the football. Do I think he will with Indiana? Do I think he's better suited there than he was at TCU? Yes, of course. And he has a better coach. He's the guy that won the national championship last season. So I'm going to give Josh Hoover a grade of I'll go with a B-. I got to see him not turn over the ball, because in the games that I've seen, he does turn over the ball quite a lot. All right, we got 2 more QBs, and then we'll call it a night. All right, we got Bo Pribula. I'm botching his last name. It's Pribula. I think it's Pribula. So Bo Pribula, he went from Penn State to Mizzou, and now he's going over to what was he? Virginia. He's going over to Virginia. So, do I think this is going to work out? Yes and no. In the beginning of the season, he had great numbers against Kansas. But then when you look at his SEC numbers, he didn't throw that many yards, except for Auburn. He got embarrassed by Vanderbilt. They didn't really have him run. He didn't run that many plays against Vanderbilt. He played okay against Oklahoma, but he couldn't get any points on the board. Yeah, I think he's overrated. He gets hurt a lot too. I'm gonna say it's a C minus. That's a pretty easy one to do because I just don't see it working out. And I think Virginia, they had their shot with an ACC championship and they blew it. I don't think they'll be back there anytime soon. All right, and lastly, we have Aaron Philo. He's going over to Florida. Oh, boy, this guy. He threw for 2 picks in the spring game. That's all you need to know about him. I just don't see it working out. And I think the UF QB race is going to be interesting because Philo is not good. He threw for 373 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He was backing up, why am I blanking on the name? The dual threat QB. Let's see. We'll call it a night after this. Haynes King. So, Philo, I think he was better off staying at Georgia Tech, and now he's going to the SEC. The ACC is not a good conference. I just don't see it working out. I think that this QB grade for the transfer portal is a D minus. I think he's the worst one out of the 11 that just went over. Prbula is not that good, but he's better than Philo. All right, folks, we're going to call it a night, but I want to tell you guys thank you again for subscribing, watching, whatever that may be. And we'll be doing another podcast next week. We'll be analyzing